It began as a routine sonar ping, a ghost in the machine, the technician thought. He almost ignored it, but then he listened again. This was the spring of 2015. A research vessel from the University of Miami was mapping Cold War wreck sites off the coast of New Jersey. They weren't looking for anything new. They were looking for closure. What they found would reopen a case that the Navy had declared closed 30 years earlier. On the night of April 17, 1973, the USS Stallion, a diesel-electric submarine carrying 4 classified listening devices and a crew of 9, left Norfolk Naval Station. Its mission? Silent running, deep surveillance, and then radio silence for 72 hours. It never checked back in. The official search lasted 11 days. The Navy released a short statement. Presumed lost with all hands. Cause unknown. Families were given folded flags and a promise of privacy. No debris, no distress call, no explanation. For 3 decades, the Stallion became a footnote, a cautionary tale told in submarine school, a name on a granite wall in Annapolis. The men, most of them in their early 20s, faded from memory. Then, on May 14, 2015, at 2:17 a.m. Eastern Time, a receiver at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center in Newport, Rhode Island, picked up a low-frequency transmission. It wasn't noise. It wasn't a whale. It was a coded military handshake, a recognition signal that hadn't been used since the Nixon administration. The source, a depth of 3,800 feet, 27 miles off the coast of Atlantic City. The signal lasted 4.3 seconds. Then, nothing. For the next 3 weeks, the Navy denied it. Off the record, retired sonar operators started calling old shipmates. The story spread through veterans forums, then Reddit, then cable news. By June, a Freedom of Information request forced the Navy to confirm one thing: a signal was received. They did not send it. So who did? A deep-sea ROV was deployed. In July, the footage leaked within 48 hours. Grainy, green, and lit by a single robotic arm, the camera descended through the thermocline. At 3,800 feet, the silt parted. There it was, the Stallion, intact.
Not broken, not buried, sitting upright on the ocean floor like it had just parked for the night. The hull was clean. The conning tower hatch was open. And here's where the story turns strange. Forensic sonar scans later revealed that the submarine had moved multiple times. Over 3 decades, the Stallion had shifted position by nearly 2 miles against the current, without any recorded seismic activity. The Navy's official report, declassified in 2021, offered one theory: a slow creep of underwater landslides. But landslides don't leave tire tracks in the sediment, and they don't explain the signal. Because here's what the public never learned until last year. The signal wasn't a beacon. It wasn't a locator. It was a response. The Stallion was carrying a prototype sleep mode communication buoy, a black box designed to wake up after a set number of years and broadcast its location. The crew didn't know it was on board. Only 3 admirals did. The box was set to activate in 2003, but it didn't wake up until 2015, 12 years late. Why? The manufacturer, a now defunct defense contractor, had one engineer still alive. In a 2022 interview, he said this: "That timer wasn't broken, it was delayed. Something on that submarine, some power source, fed it a false date. For 30 years, the buoy thought it was still 1973. Something kept the Stallion alive. Not the crew, not the engines, but a low-level electrical hum detected by the ROV, still running through the hull." They cut the feed 20 minutes later. No further exploration has been authorized. But let's go back, because the story of the Stallion didn't start in 1973. It started in 1973 with a decision that changed everything. The submarine's last known communication was a routine check-in at 9:42 p.m. The captain, Lieutenant Michael Cross, reported all systems nominal and confirmed their dive to 300 feet. That was the last human voice from the Stallion. What the public didn't know was that the Stallion was carrying more than listening devices. It was testing a new type of battery, a silver zinc cell that could hold a charge for months, even years, without maintenance. The technology was so secret that only 2 men on board knew about it. When the submarine vanished, the Navy assumed the battery had failed, exploded, or worse, caused a fire that spread through the oxygen system. That was the official theory. But no wreckage meant no proof. For 35 years, the families lived in silence. Then the signal came. And that signal wasn't random. It was a pattern. 3 short pulses, 3 long, 3 short. In Morse code, that's SOS. But the Navy insisted it was a coincidence, a glitch in the buoy's programming. But here's the thing about coincidences. They don't repeat. Because in 2016, 1 year after the first signal, it happened again. Same frequency, same duration, same SOS pattern. Only this time, the signal lasted 8.6 seconds, twice as long. And then, in 2017, a third signal, this time with a timestamp embedded in the transmission. When decoded, the timestamp read April 17, 1973, the day the Stallion went missing.
Now, either the buoy's clock was stuck on the same date for 44 years, or something on that submarine wanted us to remember exactly when it all went wrong. The Navy stopped talking after that. No more press releases, no more FOIA responses. But retired sonar operator James Holcomb, who served on the search team in 1973, broke his silence in 2019. He said, and I quote, "We heard them the first night. We heard knocking on the hull. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. We reported it. They told us to log it as thermal expansion." Thermal expansion doesn't knock in patterns. Holcomb is 81 now. He still wakes up at 2:17 a.m. He still listens to his old recordings, transferred from reel to digital. And he still believes that the 9 men of the Stallion survived for days, maybe weeks, trapped in the dark, breathing poisoned air, knocking for help that never came. So when the signal returned in 2015, Holcomb wasn't surprised. He was terrified. Because if the buoy woke up on its own, that meant something on that submarine had been awake the whole time. What was that something? Let's talk about the 4th listening device, the one that wasn't on the manifest. Documents declassified in 2023 under the Nazi War Crimes Disclosure Act, yes, that act, revealed that the Stallion was carrying a passive acoustic array designed to detect Soviet nuclear test submarines. But the 4th device was different. It wasn't American. It was German, captured in 1945, reverse-engineered, and never fully understood. The device was called Das Ohr, the ear. It was designed to listen not for engines, but for biological sounds, whale songs, fish migrations, and, according to one surviving memo, anomalous deep-sea acoustic phenomena. In other words, the Stallion was hunting something that wasn't Russian, something that didn't show up on sonar, something that the Navy has never named. When the ROV approached the Stallion in 2015, the camera briefly focused on the forward torpedo room. The outer hatch was open, and hanging from the hatch was a tangle of cables that didn't match any Navy schematic. One of the cables led directly to Das Ohr. The device was still blinking, a green LED, powered on, after 42 years at the bottom of the Atlantic. The ROV operator later told a reporter, off the record, it looked like someone had just stepped away for a minute, like they'd be right back. They weren't right back. They never will be. So here's the final twist, the one that almost no one knows. In 2024, a civilian oceanographer named Dr. Elena Vasquez was reviewing old acoustic data from the National Oceanic and Observatory Administration. She found something strange, a low-frequency hum at 18.9 hertz, originating from the exact coordinates of the Stallion. The hum had been present since 1973.
Not intermittent, constant. The Navy knew about it. They'd known for 50 years. They just never told anyone.
Why? Because 18.9 hertz is the same frequency used by a rare species of baleen whale. The Navy classified the sound as marine biology. Case closed. Except that baleen whales don't transmit encrypted military handshake codes, and they don't send SOS signals in Morse code. Dr. Vasquez published her findings in a small peer-reviewed journal. 3 weeks later, her research server was wiped. She lost 5 years of data. When asked for comment, the Navy said no comment. So where does that leave us? 9 men, 1 submarine, a German listening device from World War II, a battery that shouldn't still work, a signal that keeps coming back, and a hum that has never stopped. The families have asked for one thing. Leave them there. A war grave, a mystery, a promise kept in the dark. But every night at 2:17 a.m., a listening post in the Aleutian Islands picks up a faint, repeating signal from the same coordinates. Not data, not voice, just a single rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat. Some signals aren't meant to be understood. Some are meant to be heard. The submarine that vanished for 30 years didn't come back. It just reminded us it's still down there, waiting, listening, and every so often, whispering. In 2025, a deep-sea mining drone went off course near the Stallion's last known position. Its cameras were offline, but its acoustic recorder was running. When the drone returned to the surface, engineers found 3 seconds of audio that should not exist. It was not machinery, it was not marine life. It was a human voice, faint, garbled, but unmistakably English. One word repeated twice. Help. Help. The Navy confiscated the recorder within 6 hours. The drone operator signed a non-disclosure agreement. The audio has never been released. But the technician who first heard it, he quit the next day. He now lives in Montana. He doesn't talk about what he heard. But when a reporter tracked him down last fall, he said only this: the signal wasn't from 2015. It was from 1973. It just took 42 years to get here. Sound travels slower in cold water, about 1,500 meters per second. From 3,800 feet down, a voice would take less than a second to reach the surface. So, no, that's not the explanation. The real explanation is one that no one wants to say out loud. That submarine didn't send a signal in 2015. Something else did. Something that learned Morse code. Something that remembered the date. Something that is still down there listening back. The Navy says the case is closed. The families say let them rest. But the hum continues. 18.9 hertz. Constant. Unstoppable. And every so often, just before dawn, the hum changes pitch. Just slightly. Just enough to sound like a whisper. The submarine that vanished for 30 years then sent a signal. It didn't vanish again. It's still there, and it's not alone. Some secrets don't stay buried. They just wait for someone to listen.